Hello, everyone. We're about to begin our webinar. So at any time, everyone will start off being muted. So if anyone has a question, you can click on the raise hand function or send me a question through the text, and then I will unmute you so you can speak or ask a question about anything that you may have questions on. So we're going to begin right now. Today our webinar is about Golden State Instruments HDIP camera line. So we're going to go over the IP definition, the compression types, some picture comparisons, application types, connectivity, switches, some power options, a couple of the NVRs, and do a little sample installation diagram. And at the end of this PowerPoint presentation, we're going to create a basic NVR using our NVR software and connect some IP cameras to do a demonstration on how it works. So IP basically stands for Internet Protocol. It's a method of data transmission. It's slightly different, well, a lot different from analog, which transmits composite video signals. Composite video resolution is limited to 640 by 480, while IP is not. So even some 700 TV line cameras you see out there for analog, even though it says that, the transmission is not able to do a whole 700 TV line. 1.3 megapixel resolution is usually 1280 by 1024. 2 megapixels either comes in at 1920 by 1080 or 1600 by 1200. Then we have a few compression types. We have MJPEG, which is the older compression types, and then we have the newer H.264. H.264 is a more compressed format. It uses less bandwidth and less hard drive space required for the same quality and time for recording. Here's a sample comparison of an analog versus a IP camera. 1.3 megapixel is a 1.3 versus a 560 TV line analog camera. 1.3 megapixels is 4 times the resolution of analog, while 2 megapixels are 6.7 times the resolution. As you can see, the top picture is a megapixel camera compared to the bottom picture, which is from an analog camera. On the pictures on the left, you might not see much of a difference because the field of view is so wide, but where you will really be able to tell the difference is when you digitally zoom it in, as in the right pictures. As you can see, the megapixel line is a lot more clear, and you can basically zoom it up much more than a standard analog. Here are a couple of our GSI 1080p features of our HDIP camera line. The resolution of 1080p, which is full HD at 1920 by 1080. It can do real-time 30 frames per second recording. It has power over Ethernet. Has a web interface where you can configure the cameras more to kind of tweak it a little bit. It does have a mobile app interface and WDR, which stands for Wide Dynamic Range. Our 2 megapixel camera line also supports ONVIF, which is Open Network Video Interface Forum, which is what it is a standard where all the IP cameras will try to go to in the future. What it provides is interoperability. So the IP cameras can operate with other NVR manufacturers and vice versa. Provides flexibility, so you're not locked down to one manufacturer. Provides future-proof, so later on, even as new equipment comes out, it'll still be able to communicate with the newer NVRs. And it also provides a certain quality to it because it has to be made to a certain standard. Here we're going to go over some different application types. For indoor applications, we can go with a dome, a box, or a vandal dome. As you can see some samples of our different types of cameras on the bottom. We also have our outdoor applications. We can use a weatherproof bullet, a vandal dome, and we can use a box camera as long as it comes inside a weatherproof enclosure. And then we have situations where we would need to see in complete darkness using IR lighting. These cameras have what they call a ICR, which is an infrared cut filter removal. What it does is, during the daytime, there's an infrared filter in front of the camera to get accurate colors, or else all the colors will be all washed out. But when nighttime comes, the filter gets removed. Once the filter is removed, then it's more sensitive to low light. Also, it gives the camera the ability to pick up IR LEDs. So we can choose a camera with integrated IRs like our bullets or domes, or we can use a box camera, but we would have to use an IR illuminator with it. Or you can use the IR illuminator to help illuminate cameras with integrated IR. Then we have situations where we would need wide dynamic range, such as in front of a glass window, in front of a doorway where the sun shines through. In this case, we have another application for it where there are shadows. Because the camera has to compensate for the majority of the image, which is the background, where, as you can see, it's all lit up, compared to the front of the picture where it has like a dark shadow. When we enable wide dynamic range, it compensates for the back and the front, as you can see in the second image, where the image, you can see clearly through the shadows and behind it too. Then we have our connectivity. So we use unshielded twisted pair Cat5e or Cat6 for data connections. There is a maximum cable length of 100 meters or 330 feet, which is the maximum the data can travel, but we will go over some ways to extend it later on too. And then we have, the cameras get connected through RJ45 connectors. Then how the cameras communicate with each other and the NVR is through a network switch. What it does is it connects all your devices together. It assigns, you assign each camera an IP address where it's located at. And depending on how many IP cameras are on your system will determine the number of network switches and your network switch itself. Here we go over our power options. The cameras operate on 12-volt DC. You can use plug-in power supplies to power the cameras separately. You can also use central power supplies, as you can see the picture with the box in the middle. And the best way, the recommended way, is using PoE, which stands for Power over Ethernet. Using PoE, you can run data and power on a single 4-pair UTP cable. The benefits of it is that you don't have to run an extra 18-2 wire for power. So as you can see, you can achieve PoE using a mid-span injector, as you see the third item on the bottom, or using a PoE switch. A PoE switch is basically an injector and a switch onto one. And how the cameras record or is to use for live viewing is we use a NVR, which is a network video recorder. It is different from DVRs in the sense that it doesn't need any video capture cards. It is purely in software. We do provide a free 64-channel software, so depending on the number of cameras and resolution will determine your hardware requirements. We do have a standalone NVR. This NVR has a built-in 4-port switch. It supports our 1.3 megapixel cameras at 15 frames per second. It does support 2 megapixel cameras, but you would have to lower the resolution to 720p, which is 1280 by 720. The benefits of a standalone NVR is that it's always on, and that's what the device is made for. With a Windows-based, NVR software, you might have to check on it every once in a while just to make sure Windows isn't doing something funky to the operating system that might install updates or something like that. So here's a sample installation diagram on how it works. So basically you have all the IP cameras connected to a switch. And then you have the NVR connecting to the same switch or to the network. The NVR will communicate with the cameras, and then if you want to basically connect it to the internet too, you can also connect the system to the internet to let it outside the network. The other benefit of using an IP-based system is that you have cost-saving benefits and less complexity to run the wires. As you can see in the sample diagram of how to connect a lot of IP cameras, here we have all the switches daisy-chained together through the uplink ports. So this way it becomes a larger network, and you can connect all the cameras to the closest cameras to the first switch. Then going on to the next switch, you have all the cameras connecting to that switch, and all the cameras connecting to the third switch. So this way you don't have to do a home run all the way back to the main switch. So that saves you a lot of wires. So as you can see, you're really only running the cables for the cameras to the nearest switch, and the switches get connected through one UTP cable. This also gives you the benefits I think Mark has a question. Hi, Mark. You have a question? Mark, can you hear me? Okay, so Mark was asking if all cameras have to be on the same voltage if connected to a PoE switch. Basically, what the PoE switch is, it sends out 48 volt DC to all the cameras, and the cameras inside will step it down to 12 volt DC. So basically, all the cameras will, all the cameras do work on the same voltage. Basically, at 12 volts DC, it just steps it down. But the PoE switches do send it out on 48 volts DC. So basically, as you can see, there are lots of benefits of using IP-based systems. Just the cost savings on the wires alone, and plus it also bypasses the 330-foot distance limitations. As you can see, between the switches are less than 330 feet. So if you add that all up together to the furthest switch, you can go over 1,000 feet to the next camera. So now we're going to go over how to basically do do a demonstration on how to use the software and how to connect the IP cameras. So does anyone have any questions so far? Hi, Ali. You have a question? Ali? So Ali is asking if we're going to go over Ali, do you have a mic? So he's asking if we would be talking about methods for coming up with proposals and job bids. Yes, we can go over that after we're done with our demonstrations. Okay, so now we're going to go over doing some sample, we're going to go try to do a little demonstration and go over how to find cameras and how to install our NVR software. Okay, so first off, we use the IP wizard to find our software, or all our cameras on our network that I have installed earlier. So first off, we'll run the IP wizard, and what this does is this software will send out a broadcast and to find all the IP cameras on the network, and then the IP cameras will communicate back with the software to tell us where it's located at. So as we can see, we have 5 IP cameras on the network already. So we have, and it'll tell us where the IP addresses are. So now that we have found all our IP cameras, so Ali is asking if the cameras are initially assigned DHCP configured addresses or static IP config for each camera. Out of the box, the cameras are configured for DHCP. Out of the box, the cameras are configured for DHCP. So if there's a DHCP server, like a router or some sort of machine, the server that assigns it, it will assign the cameras an IP address. If the camera detects no IP addresses, then it will assign itself a static IP of 192.168.0.100. So if you don't have a router, you can set your static IP for your laptop or computer to that same network. And so Ali's asking, a DHCP router or such is more or less required on the video camera network. No, it is not. As long as, but the camera will assign. And Ali's asking, or do the cameras themselves be able to ensure no static IP conflicts? If you don't have a router, you would plug in one camera at a time, because the camera will get 192.168.0.100 first, and then we can go in there and change it through here with the software to a certain one to get it out of the way, and then we will plug in our next camera. So the cameras will be conflicting, and then after that, then we can just assign a different one afterwards. So the IP wizard can change it to a static and find IP addresses at the same time. Hi, Sharuz. You have a question? Okay, yeah. So Sharuz is asking, okay, Sharuz is saying if you use static IPs, make sure you set the HTTP scope that doesn't include those static IPs. So yes, that is a good question. So basically, we can cut off the DHCP to a certain address. Say like we want to use a block of 150 to 200. So we would cut off the DHCP at 149 so it doesn't conflict. Hi, Gilbert. You have a question?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I talked to you about this before, and I have this project that I think I mentioned to you. It's about 20 acres, so it's quite impossible to. I mean, it's I can run a cable, but it's labor intensive. So I'm thinking of using a point-to-point wireless technology. So does your system or your camera supports that system?
Yes. There's also another way of using, like, the benefits of IP is you can do long-range runs using a point-to-point wireless bridge. Like, say if we have a camera in like about 500 to 1,000 feet away, and then we can put a point-to-point bridge connecting those switches together so it'll be on the same network, in the main network. So that way you don't have to run, or if you don't have a way to run the wire that far.
Mm-hmm. And do you configure that to the camera? I know you helped me before configuring a system. So do you support that as well?
Support what was the question?
Configuring the DVR, the NVR?
Yes,
remotely.
we will support. We will give you full support on how to configure NVRs and set up the cameras and all that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I'll talk to you about that after we're done with this.
Okay. So basically, now we're going to install since we found all our cameras already, so now we're going to go install the software for the NVR. So now we're going to do a quick installation. We're going to run the software and tell it where to install it to. So there we have finished our installation of our software. So now we're going to run the program. So basically, this is our software. So now we're going to start do some setup on it. Here we'll go to the system setup. And under the system tab, we can set the record paths for the storage. As you can see right here, we can basically do direct attached storage, like doing an internal RAID, or we can set it to record on a network attached storage, or just another hard drive on the computer itself. We can have the program auto start and to basic auto login. So basically, if you lose power or something like that, then the NVR software will come right back up and start recording again on your computer. But if you do that, make sure you set your BIOS to auto start as well. As once you lose power and you don't set that, then the system will stay off. And additionally, some of the cameras do have onboard micro SD card storage just for just in case something does happen to NVR, you will have the recording on the camera itself too. So now we're going to start adding in our cameras. So we're going to add in camera 1. Which the IP was at 10.1.10.150. User is admin. And inside the camera, we can select what profile we can give it and what protocol to give it. I personally like to use UDP because it creates less of an overhead for the NVR and the transmission. As in, UDP is different from TCP is that UDP was just sending out the data while TCP waits for the other side to acknowledge that the right data will be received. If it doesn't, then TCP will keep on sending it until the other side has confirmed that it is received. But for video, it's not as important because you're sending out so much data anyway, so might as well just let create less overhead for the network itself. So now we're going to add camera 2, which is at 152. Then we're going to add camera 3, which is at 154. Then we add camera number 4, which is at 156. And camera 5, which is at 158. I think camera 5 was our wireless camera, so we do have wireless cameras too. So we just changed it to we're going to do an exterior camera, which has an external address where we can add cameras from outside the network too. The only thing that you might run into when you do that is that your bandwidth might not be enough to do multiple megapixel IP cameras, but it is possible to do that. You're just going to have to lower the resolution or the frame rate because it all depends on your upload bandwidth. Unlike within the network, you have either 100 megabits per second or 1,000 megabits, which is the gigabit network. So you're not limited by your upstream at all. Here you can create additional users and give them set permissions and what cameras that they are able to view. So now that we're done connecting our cameras, so basically these are all our cameras that we just connected. As you can see, it's very simple as long as you understand the basics of networking, or you just know just very little and I can help you out with the rest. And the software does, you are able to do pan tilt cameras on it, as you will see. So, let's see. So Ali was asking, okay, yes, Ali, these are all 2 megapixel cameras. He's asking if these were 2 megapixels. And he wants to look at the whiteboard to see if the quality is preserved. Let me see if we have one pointing at the whiteboard. Okay, I do have that one pointing at the whiteboard. So let's do a simple zoom. Here I did a simple zoom of the whiteboard as someone was requesting us to do. And Ali's asking if we are possible to zoom to a specific area. Yes, we can. So Sharuz is asking, when do we plan on doing a Star Force application for outdoors? Because of the cameras, they use a CMOS, a certain CMOS sensor, so it's not possible yet. But we are working on a very low light IP cameras in the future. But right now, so the best way to use it outside is using external illuminators. But the cameras, the benefits of the cameras that have the ICR is that it does remove its IR cut filter, so it is more sensitive to light now. Okay, so let's see. So Dave has a question. Hi, Dave. You have a question? So Dave is asking for if we can flip the video in the software. The software will not flip the video, but then through the camera itself, we can flip the video. So let's say we want to flip the video of this one, which is 154 at 154. So then we would click on the config detail. It will take us directly to the page of it'll take us to the camera's page itself. In here, we can go set the different aspects of the camera. So we can go in here. We can go into the camera itself and set the rotation. So we'll do a mirror and vertical flip. So as you can see now, the camera is flipped in the right direction. So we can do that with camera number 2 too. On our pan tilt camera. As you see now, the cameras are tilted in the right direction. And we also can go to, let's say, we'll go over some settings inside the camera. So we go here inside the camera. You can also set the static IP which you want it as. You can also, if you want to make it more secure, the camera itself, you can also use the HTTPS. That does, a lot of people won't use it because it does create some overhead for it. So Ali is asking if, let's see. So Ali is asking, does each camera have a direct management interface? So yes, each camera has a web interface to use all the settings. As you can see, and it you will, once you click on it, it will open up the camera page automatically. And Ali is also asking, each camera has a dedicated username password for management. Does this need to be set password change at the camera individually, or can it be at the central management console push out an updated password to all cameras at once? Now each camera acts individually, and you have to set each, if you want to create a password for each camera, then you would have to do it right there. You can also change the password inside the IP Wizard management console too. So you would put in the username that it was on and then new password and confirm the password, and it will change the password at the console, or you can do it at this part right here at the web management itself. So here you can create users and change password and give certain access rights to each one. So here we can also do DDNS. We can, if they have like a PPPoE support. And Robert is asking if we provide the IP Wizard software. Yes, we do provide the IP Wizard software. It comes with each camera on the disk itself, and it does have the NVR software with it too. So yes, it does come with it. So basically, we can also set the RTSP streaming port in here. Okay, so Ali is asking if the NVR software has any intelligent detection capability to auto-forward to a time where an event change is detected. So it does have, if you set it up in a certain way, like the software that we provide does not come with like any, like you can create a certain block where a scene change is like an object is removed, but our more advanced NVRs do, our standalone ones do, like the 8 and 16 and 32 channels do. So for the software that comes with this, we are working on some IVS features at the moment. So Ali was asking to bypass hours of a static image to get a scene change. If we do motion detection, yes, it does. If we enable motion, it will and just playback motion only. Yes, and it will bypass those hours of the static image to get the scene change. So usually some people have on pure motion detection recording, and say the first hour, Ali was asking if there was no motion detected, will it bypass that? If we put on pure motion recording, yes, it will bypass that. And then on the camera itself, here you can also set, like you saw earlier, the rotation, the auto iris feature. And here we can also control our infrared cut filter removal system too, where you can set when the ICR shifts into day or night mode, or you can have it stick in night mode. As you can see, without the infrared cut filter in front of it, and the camera will be in complete black and white because of the IRs of the sun will make the camera see only black and white. And then we can also, and this is where we enable our WDR settings. Since right now it's pretty bright outside, so we don't need to do WDR, but this is where we control our WDR threshold up to 15 levels. And then the next one is where we can have it time stamped on each camera. So Ali is asking if can the cameras be set so that they auto switch to night mode at certain time, or do they intelligently assess available light to determine whether to operate in day or night mode? So Ali's question was, how is the ICR controlled? Yes, we can do it auto, as you can see what is set at, or we can set it on a schedule to shut the ICR off to go into day or night mode at a certain time, or set it to a certain threshold, like how I have it right here, and we can move the threshold. And at the time, it'll tell you what the current value is, and when it goes to night mode, and when it returns to day mode. And we can also set it to delay just in case of the spikes of, like a flash of light. So, and if we have a PTZ camera, we can also set where our presets are, and we can set our tours in a certain sequence, and we can also set the tours to go on a schedule too. Let's say in the daytime you want to go do a scan of a tour around the room, but during nighttime, you want to shut off the tour and just set it to go to a certain preset. So that is available with IP cameras. And here we have our time stamping in case you do want to do that. And we also have, here we can also set our video profiles. Here are different types of profiles. On our cameras, we can have up to 20 different profiles. So we can set the video type to be H.264, MPEG-4, or MJPEG. We can set the resolution, and another thing is we can set our rate control. What we have here is VBR, CBR, eCBR, and eVBR. VBR stands for variable bit rate. CBR stands for a constant bit rate. And eCBR is enhanced constant bit rate, and eVBR is enhanced VBR. So what these are VBR is, if we do set it to VBR, then we just set the quality, and at the bandwidth and the data will spike up to a certain point to keep that quality. Whereas CBR, we set a certain bit rate, and during those times, it will always stream at whatever bit rate you set it as. So if you do have some spikes in like fast-moving cars or scene change that requires a more bit rate, more data, then CBR will basically won't let you do that. You'll start seeing image degradation. But the good thing about CBR is that it will keep your bit rate at a constant level. So you'll know exactly what your throughput is and everything like that. Enhanced bit rate, enhanced constant bit rate is a step above CBR, which is you set your bit rate, you set the maximum bit rate that it can go for. So Ali is asking, these various per camera settings, ICR, video profile, they need to be set individually at each camera one by one. Is there no way to select a set of default settings for each of these camera specific parameters and then deploy out to all cameras at once? No, because that was mentioned before, but each situation is so different that every scene is different that it wouldn't be. We can't just set all these IP cameras to have this certain level and all these to have the ICR go to open at this time. So, but out of the box, it is set to a certain level for those settings that will, unless you want to do some more tweaking. So, but out of the box, it should be what we think that might fit in our situation. So our enhanced CBR is like constant bit rate, but with a little bit of variable bit rate in there too. So, and then you set the bit rate duration for it, just in case, like especially at nighttime when there's when the gain is increased to create the better image, the VBR bit rate will go out of control. It'll spike up to whatever level to maintain that quality level. Unlike CBR, eCBR is that it will stream at a constant bit rate, but it will spike up to accompany any scene changes at a set duration. And then we have eVBR, which is enhanced variable bit rate. What this is you set your quality, but you also set a cap for the bit rate, maximum bit rate too. So let's say we want 100 quality, but we don't want the bit rate to get out of control, so we can cap the bit rate at 5 megabits per second or 2 megabits per second or even 1 megabit per second. So this way your data won't, your streaming won't get out of control, and it'll cap it right there. And we do have audio in and out too for these cameras. Here you can set up your email notifications. So yeah, so Ali is requesting, we'll look into the okay, so we have our email notifications, and then we also have, here we can set our motion detection zones. We can create multiple zones at different sensitivities. So to set our motion detection, we can set this up to certain levels, and then not to pick up trees and mask it out. Here we can use our onboard storage. We can set our onboard storage up and have it how to record to it. This is a good redundant way to make sure you are always recording even if the NVR goes down. And here we can set what profile to use when we're recording on our onboard storage or onto a Samba server. And if we were recording on here, we can retrieve the recordings and playback from here. And here is where we set up our FTP servers, our TCP servers, HDIP server, and Samba server. And right here is where we set certain events to trigger and where to send it to, or record or send a voice alert. And Sharuz is asking, is it possible to just use an SD card to record instead of an NVR if the client only wants to use one camera? So yes, it is possible to use the SD card to record only, so they won't have to use NVR, and they can just view the cameras from a web page like how I have it right here. Okay, so that's basically on how the cameras are set up. And any other questions? Okay, so I would go over a simple playback real quick to show how to do a sample playback from our NVR server. So basically, you go to the playback function, and then you open the search your file. Here we scan on days that there were, anywhere that has bolded, a bold date will have the data on it. So we click on the 23rd, which is today, and do a search. And right here we see all the cameras that have our recorded data. So we just select this little block of time, hit OK, and it will start playing back at this moment. So now we are in playback mode. So it is that simple to do just a simple playback like that. And we can even do digital zoom during playback. So basically, that's how we do our playback. As you can see, it's very simple, easy to use. And does anyone have any questions? Hi, Dave. You have a question? So if there's no more questions, we'll be finished for today. If you have any other questions later on, you can feel free to call me or email me, and I will answer your questions. So Dave is asking, how do you export clip to a flash drive? You basically plug since the NVR software is in a computer, you just basically go to playback and go to convert a recorded file. So you pick the day, and then you go to search. This is where you put it on the flash drive. You set where do you want to save it to. So if you have a flash drive on your system, you can just dump it on there, and then it'll dump the file out straight to there, whichever part that you want. Okay, so that's our basics on how to use our software and how to connect all the IP cameras. And the software does come with every IP cameras, and you can do up to 64 depending on how strong your computer is. And if no one has any other questions, just feel free to, we will end the webinar today. Just if you have other questions you may think of, feel free to call me. I will be here, or email me. So thank you all for coming today to our webinar, and hope to see you for the next one.